Well, I'm Graeme Lange from Pingelly, and this is my wife Shirley for 60 years.
And where?
And we're Sandgropers.
Sandgropers. Doesn't give me a chance to say who I am. We've got a school photo which actually shows us we had the same teacher year 2 and year 1, year 2, 7 and 8 year olds. He's in the photo, which I never knew, because I had the photo of me.
Yes. Yeah.
And then suddenly when we got married, there was him sitting there with his ears sticking out. My kids have hysterics.
She was pretty when she was younger.
That's a terrible thing. I'm pretty ugly now. Interestingly enough, my paternal grandmother used to vet my boyfriends, and she said to me when she met Graeme, she said, "He's got the nicest eyes I've ever seen," which I thought, yes, oh, fair enough. But that's what Gran said, and I was so impressed. I thought, gee, that's a really big thing, because I don't think she agreed with some of the boys. 60 years seems impossible. You know, we both looked at each other before this happened and said, "Do you feel like you've been married 60 years or even thought about it?" And we both went, it was so far from our thoughts when we got married that it would be long term. Not that we're looking for a short term, but 60 years and it's gone by in a flash. And that's the thing, is that's like you said and asked, there's so many things, but the 60 years, I don't regret one of them, really. I think we made a decision early on that we would never argue in front of our kids. That was one really big decision that we made. And
she wouldn't slap me again.
I had 2 pet lambs when we first got married. I'll make this quick. And he said to me, when we were having mutton and roast,
beautiful.
and he said, "Oh, beautiful meat, you know, this is just lovely." He said, "Have you seen your pet lamb?" Oh. Went like this and burst into tears. I was probably married 6 months, and he came up to me sobbing in the bedroom. He said, "Don't ever hit me again, but it wasn't your pet lamb." But I said, "Well, don't ever do that again," because I just couldn't bear the thought of it. But a lot of people are like that on farms, as you probably know. If you have a pet, could quite easily get slaughtered. I had started volunteering before we were married, and I've been volunteering probably ever since, and that would be a very long story to tell you that. But when I stood for council, Graeme supported that, which was really important because it was a big job, which we did on council those few years that I was on. I was going to try and make a history book with all the photos and things that I had of all the things that we'd been involved in. And when I wrote them all out, I said to Graeme, "How on earth did you ever let me get involved in so many things?" Because it was appalling how many. And he said, "Oh, I didn't mind, you were happy doing it." And he said, and that was the important thing. But he did, he supported me all the way through. But my youngest son, "Mum, you were never home," and that made me feel terrible.
Well, we've supported each other, and I think it's important to say that being supportive of each other and being behind each other is extremely important. And then you make mistakes, and if we forgive each other, that's another important thing. But yeah, being a family and bringing up 3 kids and enjoying it, and we're always busy. We're never twiddling our thumbs, really. Well, I was born in Pingelly, and I'll die in Pingelly, so I'll be there forever. My father was a farmer too. So I became a farmer. I didn't think education was my forte, and didn't go to university or anything like that. Just came home and worked on the farm. I've had a great life on the farm. Really good. This particular day I was driving a mob of sheep back out the paddock into another paddock. I saw a vision of a cross on that hill, and it was big and it was really good, and I was quite excited about it. And, sure, some time went by anyway, and I didn't do anything about it.
You used to talk about it all the time.
Used to talk about it, but I then went looking for a piece of pipe or structure that would be a cross, and I tried to buy some of these SEC, like windmill towers they are, straight up with a peak on top. There's plenty of them around, and no, I couldn't get one of those. I thought if I got two, I could sort of, two broken ones that somebody had hit with a truck or something, you know. And believe it or not, when Orrong Street first opened, Shirley and I were in Perth, and we were driving down this new road, and look, we were looking in the backyard of people's places, and there was
businesses. Backyards of businesses.
Of businesses, and there was these 3 pipes laying there on the ground, and I said to Shirley, "That's what I need." And we went in to see the guy, and I told him that I was a Christian, I wanted to build a cross, and I wanted to know if I could buy those pipes. And he sort of, and eventually he said, "For what you're going to do it for, we would let you take 2 of them for a scrap metal price." So, and that was the start of how everything happened for that cross, believe it or not. Another lady rang up and said she wanted to, we said we'd like to put a light on it, and a few people donated money, probably a couple of thousand altogether. And then I wanted a light for it, and the guy in Perth I went to here, he said, "For what you want it for, it's yours." So all that sort of thing just continued to happen. Yeah. And it's still got a battery in it. Still going well. Still goes. Yeah. Mm.
Well, the other side, Graeme comes in and says he wants to build a big cross, so 8 feet high. That's what I could see. That's what I could see in my mind was big, and I didn't whatever, you know. It's his thing, but we had a group of people who used to meet and pray down the Avon Valley, and they'd start in 2J and Northam and follow right through. And they were in Pingelly this particular day, and we'd had the prayer meeting, and this lady said, "Oh, I've just really got this vision of a cross on the hill." She said, "It's really strong." And everybody went, "Oh, maybe it's the hill behind the church, the old Methodist cum Uniting Church." And I thought, no, God, I think God means the hill that Graeme's talking about. I went home and told him what the lady had said, and I said, "And I really feel that you need to get on with it." And that was when we went to Perth, not to look for pipe, but we saw the pipe that day. But it was really interesting because for me, I just thought, you know, wooden thing up on the hill. I did not think of something 52 feet high and 36 feet wide or something. It's massive, and everybody in town was talking about it. And
the Shire.
The Shire had not been approached. And at this stage,
farm.
I was standing for council, and I won the election that year on the same day as the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship came down to pray and celebrate this thing going up. Had a big picnic, big barbecue dinner that night. And here I am down watching them count the votes, and realising that Graeme actually hadn't got permission. And my brother said, "Well, you know, you put it up and then ask for forgiveness, you know, go." Okay, that's not what I quite had.
It's the only way it would have got there.
And anyway, we agreed that the Shire had to be approached, and they could not find any laws or regulations about building crosses, and they were trying to find all sorts of reasons why we could do it. Anyway, in the end, I think they just threw their hands up in despair and said, "We'll put a big plaque up there that says anybody that objects to this
on the fence,
note it and send it to the Shire, and they only got
12 letters.
They got 12 letters and only 2 of them were negative. So 10 of them were very positive. And some of the stories attached to that after it was built, we've got quite an Italian family in town, and this elderly gentleman came up with his wife and he gave me $20 or something, Graeme was
towards the cost of the lighting.
And he said he woke up on the morning and he said he looked out his windows having breakfast and he said, I saw the cross, and he made his kids cut some
couple of limbs off so he could see it perfectly.
But he said, but the thing that always makes me tear up really is that he said, I know that the Lord Jesus loves me and he's taking me home. And I went, oh, okay. And he died 3 months later. But it was like, he was so, taken by the fact that there was a cross overlooking his kitchen window. It was a promise. And it was just some of those stories. One lady had a partner who was dying of cancer and he just found peace sitting in his car at the bottom of there's a road that goes past, and she said that he was suffering and he would find peace and calm sitting in front of it. And then one lady told me, she said, I've never lived in the country and married into the town, and she said it was so scary at night time, and she said we have got a glass door that's the front door, and she said, and it looks straight up at your hill, and she said, for the first time in my life I can look at that cross and I'm not frightened anymore. So there were so many little stories that came out of that people told me. I've got a lot of it written down, but then I have a spell of not writing things down. But the impact people. The real estate guy told me that people wanted to be able to buy land where they could see the cross.
Or a house.
Yeah, build a house where they could see it. So it's had an amazing effect. It's been a good life. You couldn't better it really.
We've lived in a good era. I feel sorry for some of the young ones that are born these days as to where we're heading. However, we've had a good life, and we've done lots of stuff that my parents wouldn't have had the opportunity of doing. They travelled as well, but not as extensive as what we have. And I think more than anything in our life is important is our family and our grandkids. And in our latter years, I think it seems that that's more important than what it was 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah, amazing.
The kids were, we were proud of them running or whatever it was, but when they're around and you see what they've achieved and they've got their own family and they look after us and honour us, it's wonderful.